Alright guys, today we're looking at how to find the x and y intercepts of a parabola. This will help us further along our goal of being able to draw a nice accurate graph of a parabola. First things first, I want to do a little bit of review. So I want you to take this equation here and I want you to find the x-intercept and the y-intercept of this graph. Okay, this will be a good review of our graphing unit from earlier in the year. So pause and then come back when you're done with that. Okay, so remember the intercept gives you the name of the variable you're solving for. So the x-intercept, you're solving for x when the other one is 0, when y is 0. So for an x-intercept, I would do 3x minus 0, 4 times 0 is 0, equals negative 24. From there, I get that x equals negative 8. So my x-intercept is negative 8, 0. Looking at that from the other perspective, if x were 0, and I had 0 minus 4y equals negative 24, I would get that y was equal to 6. So my y-intercept would be 0, 6. Okay? So the way that you find an intercept is you plug in 0 for the other variable, and then you solve for the one that you have left. So x-intercept, plug in 0 for y, solve for x. Y-intercept, plug in 0 for x, and solve for y. So the question is, how would we find the x and y intercepts of this particular graph? You could probably guess. So if you have a guess and you kind of just want to try it on your own, go for it. Okay? I'm going to start with the easy one, the y-intercept. To figure out the y-intercept, you set your x value equal to 0. When you do that, those first two terms turn out to be 0. And your last one's negative 6. So you get y equals negative 6. So your y-intercept is 0, negative 6. That one's pretty easy. As for an x-intercept, you would plug in 0 for y and then solve for x. The problem with solving for x here is that we have a quadratic. We don't know how many solutions that quadratic will have. It could have 0, 1, or 2 possible solutions. We have 3 different ways of solving quadratics. See if you can name them. Hopefully what immediately jumped into your head was quadratic formula, solving by factoring, or solving with completing the square. I'm going to solve with factoring because I see a nice GCF here, so I want to see if that works out first. So I'm going to factor out a GCF of 2. And then sure enough, what I have left there does factor into x plus 3 times x minus 1. Okay, and then to finish solving from factoring, basically what you're trying to figure out is what value of x would make each of those parentheses 0. X equals negative 3 would get the job done here, and x equals 1 would get the job done here. So we have 2 x-intercepts. We have an x-intercept of negative 3, 0, and an x-intercept of 1, 0. Okay? And those would already give you 3 nice points to put on your graph. 0, negative 6 is on your graph, negative 3, 0 is on your graph, and 1, 0 is on your graph. So you already got some nice points to be able to graph right there. We're not ready to make a full-fledged graph yet. We're going to put that all together next lesson. We just want to come up with intercepts here. Now, you could have solved for x with the quadratic formula or by completing the square as well. Okay, what I want you to do is try the 2 examples I've given you in the practice section here. Find all 3 or maybe just 1 intercept. So find the y-intercept. There will definitely be one of those. And then find the x-intercept or intercepts that there are. Okay, so do that, pause, and then come back. Okay, my y-intercept, hopefully you're kind of seeing a pattern for what my y-intercept is going to be, but if I plug in 0, I just get 5. Oops, one of those should have been a That should have been a minus sign. Doesn't make a difference. But so I get a y-intercept of 0, 5. X-intercept, plug in 0 for the y. And again, I can solve using quadratic formula. I can solve with factoring, or I can solve with completing the square. Most of you would probably jump to quadratic formula here in case you can't factor really quickly. I'm pretty confident I can factor this pretty quickly using brute force or guess and check method. I'm going to guess 2 and 2. I know they both have to be minus because they multiply to a positive number at the end but add to a middle number that's negative. I'm going to try 5 here and 1 here. And sure enough, that works because that would give me a middle number of negative 12x and the right numbers everywhere else. So I've got that equals 0. In case you're having a little bit of trouble figuring out what to plug in for x here, yeah, it's going to be decimal. So you can kind of make them, if you're having trouble what makes each parentheses 0, you can actually just set up 2 little mini equations, set those little mini equations up to 0. Here you add 1 and divide by 2 for 1/2. Here you add 1 and divide by, or add 5 and divide by 2 for 5/2. So my x-intercepts are some fractions. They are 1/2, 0, and 5/2, 0. Okay, so the next one hopefully wasn't too bad either. What I'm going to do for this one is I am going to just jump straight to the answer here if I can, and then if you made any mistakes, then you can come back and kind of just check in with your group and see if they figured things out. Okay, so that's what we're going to try to do here. So my y-intercept here is 0, negative 9. And then if whatever method you used should not matter for getting your x-intercepts. What you should get for your x-intercepts is you should get x-intercepts of negative 1/2, 0, and you could either write 4.5, 0, or you could write 9/2, 0. Both of those would work just as well. Okay, so if you made a mistake in either one of those, check in with your group and see what they came up with. Okay. That's it for this one, and hope this turned out nice for you.